their own traditions. So the leaders of the church decided that the church needed a way to prevent variations and corruption of the official version of the chant. That is why they create a news as a first step of solving the problem. The news were maps about the text that work as reminders of the melodic shape. They didn't represent specific pitches or the indication of rhythm. The melodies still need to be taught and learned by ear, but at least they provide a reminder of the melodic shape. In 900 and 1000, they start being placed at relative heights that indicate interval size that gave an extra information about the relative pitches. In some manuscripts, they start to draw a line that indicate one specific note, and the news were interpreted according to that line. This new system was clearer, but it was still not exact because of there was
no indication of rhythm.
Guido of Arezzo was a monk who invented a system of 4 lines and 3 phases. He was born around 919, and he wasn't a composer, but his contribution as an early music theorist and teacher were paramount. His achievements made it possible for early composers to record their work in manuscripts.
Before Guido's invention of musical notation, singers had to memorize the entire chant, and those singers would have to teach the chant to the next generation of singers. Because of memory errors or differences of taste, the chant would change over the years. Guido's system of notation made it possible to definitely record a chant. It was a system of 4 lines and 3 spaces, which used color lines for F and C. Each line was labeled with a pitch it represents. Now, for the first time, the signs specified an exact pitch. This was radically innovative. As Guido said, this allowed a singer to learn a verse for himself, without having heard it before, something that is known as sight reading. Although musical pitches could be written more exactly, there was still a problem of teaching everyone to sight read and sight sing. To solve this, Guido created syllables for each note of the system of commonly used moods and scales, starting with C. So we have C, D, E, F, G, and A. He didn't name B right away. In addition, music theory was conceived by making 3 different arrangements of 6 notes, called hexachord. Each hexachord could start on G, C, or F. The ones that started in G needed a B natural, and the ones that started in F needed a B flat. To make this easier to teach, Guido developed the Guidonian hand, in which each joint represented a different solfege syllable in a different hexachord, and the teachers pointed to different joints of their hands and the students sang them.
Writing music into manuscripts was a regular part of living in a monastery. The rooms dedicated to manuscript adaptation were named scriptoria. There, manuscripts were stored, read, or copied. Many manuscripts were produced during the medieval era. The creation of a manuscript was a long task and involved effort on the part of many people. Manuscripts were used before the invention of printing presses, which meant that they were time-consuming and very expensive to make. Manuscripts were for the most part written on parchment or vellum, which were writing materials made from animal skins. For example, an entire flock of sheep was necessary just to create the parchment for a single book. People called scribes were responsible for copying the work of authors by hand. Manuscripts were very important aspects of medieval society. They represented major religious, social, and artistic beliefs of the period. Because manuscripts were very expensive to make, they often served as status symbols. Most people who owned manuscripts held high-ranking positions in society. The major themes of manuscripts were religion, particularly Christianity, art, and literary characters. Illuminated manuscripts are manuscripts that have colorful illustrations or pictures in them. They are not intended to convey textual information from an author to the reader.
Their primary function is to serve as decoration, which pays tribute to the subject of the book. Often illuminated manuscripts honor God and other themes of Christianity. Also, Dublin first, you have to visit the Guinness Storehouse, the National Botanic Gardens, and the Dublin Zoo, that are extraordinary places to visit. Another old manuscript is the Romanesque Bible from Winchester. The Winchester Bible is a Romanesque illuminated manuscript produced in Winchester between 1160 and 1175. It is the largest surviving 12th century English Bible. It may still be seen at the Winchester Cathedral Library, found in England, its home for more than 800 years. There were also detailed drawings and illuminations and detailed pictures not only to ornate borders and drawings, but also for a single letter. There were also leather bindings, sometimes with metals and gemstones. One of the most famous manuscripts is the Book of Kells. The Book of Kells is a stunningly beautiful manuscript that contains the 4 Gospels in Latin based on a Vulgate text, written on vellum, prepared calfskin, in a bold and expert version of the script known as Insular Majuscule. It is Ireland's most precious medieval artifact and is generally considered the finest surviving illuminated manuscript to have been produced in medieval Europe. Chants were... This manuscript is actually found in the library of Trinity College in Dublin. This is a visit recommended to lovers of art and ornamental beauty. Chants were written and recorded into manuscripts for hundreds of years in order to standardize the musical service in the Catholic Church to prevent variation over time.